So yeah, everyone, welcome at our webinar which is about treatments and accreditation in the Netherlands. Let's see. Well, I am Mira Haakman, and I work at PsyGlobal. I organize events of PsyGlobal, but I'm also guiding the intervision group of Ukrainian psychologists. And besides this, I also work around 8 years now as a psychologist in the Dutch GGZ. I work in one of the biggest mental health institutions in the Netherlands, which is called PsyQ. So yeah, also from my experience as a psychologist, and I can also share a little bit on what I know on treatments and how accreditation works in the Netherlands. Yeah, and we'll do together with Ursula. Ursula, would you like to share something?
Yeah, share something. Hi, it's very nice to meet you and be here as well tonight. I am Ursula, working at PsyGlobal, mostly on the learning and development. So the courses we try to organize for you, and I have emailed with several of you as well, I noticed. Myself, I am a big registered psychologist, working at my own company and also with PsyGlobal. Yeah, so I think we will have an interesting evening, and yeah, back to you, Mira.
All right. And I would just want to highlight, if you have any questions during this webinar, you can always interrupt us. If you feel like, hey, this is not clear yet, or I have a question, please share. Yeah. We just wanted to make it as interactive as possible. All right, so yeah, it's part of our educational series. We've already had a couple of events before. We've had one in October on ethics and legal framework. It was a live event. We've had a webinar on children and youth. It was online. We've had also an event on the intake procedure, and now today we have a webinar on treatment and accreditation in working with adults in the Netherlands. I think it's good to highlight it because there are some nuances when it comes to if you work with children, and I will not dive that much into it into that today, since I'm also working myself with adults. And good to note is that at March 7, we also have a live event again around psychodiagnostics. So please be welcome also to join that event. Okay. So yeah, what is our planning for today? Well, we'll first dive into what are the most common treatments in the Netherlands. You probably have heard of that already. A little bit, but also share something on that. Also, I want to dive into when to use what treatment. There are guidelines in the Netherlands that have been set up, so I'll mention a bit around that. And also around, I'll share something on, we will share something on associations, different associations in the Netherlands, and also how accreditation works. And of course, there's room for questions in the end, but like I mentioned, please also share if you have a question in the meantime. Yeah? All right. Yeah, I was just thinking, Ursula, you could also explain that in quite a well way. What is the difference also for...
It's I think it's important to say that because there are many of you are working in the municipalities, and there are also some of you who are working in the GGZ, in the some in which the specialized GGZ. So there is a difference between those places, and there's a difference in what you can do, are able to do, are trained to do, I think. And so the first part of this webinar mostly focuses on the treatments, what to use, when to use what treatment, and the guidelines. They are mostly for the people who are working in the GGZ or in the specialized care in the Dutch mental health system. But if you work in a municipality, it's also good to know this, because I think I can imagine that you probably meet some people with quite difficult, in difficult situations with multiple problems. And I think then it's also good to know what can you do, what care can you provide, what treatment can you provide, and what can you not provide. So where does it stop, and where's your responsibility, and where ends your responsibility, and someone needs to be referred to specialized care. So I think what we will see in the first part of this webinar is the guidelines for the treatments within the specialized healthcare. But as Mira mentioned, if you have any questions or you want to share something about if you work in another place, just feel free to do so.
And sometimes, like, for example, it can also be mentioned in the guidelines, hey, if a client has borderline personality disorder, for example, hey, what are the first choice treatments? Well, that it's, for example, schema therapy. And then you can also have in the back of your mind, hey, this is not something that I can do now within a municipality. Yeah, because I need backup. I need a multidisciplinary team. So then you can also explain it very well within your file. Hey, this client, I'm not able to treat that client because I don't have the backup of a team. And in the guideline, it's mentioned that someone who really wants to have help for their borderline personality disorder, they need schema therapy and multidisciplinary team, and I'm not able to offer that. And so sometimes guidelines can also be very good to have in the back of your mind to really make an educated choice, and that you can also share why you're not doing something. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So what is our goal for today? Well, like I mentioned before, that to provide you with some insight in the most common Dutch methods of psychotherapy, but also to give some information on the guidelines of the therapy and where you can find them, and also to know what are important associations. All right. So yeah, what are the most common treatments in the Netherlands? Well, you probably have heard of it. Well, it's of course cognitive behavioral therapy. It's very, very, very broadly used. It's used for a lot of different diagnoses as well. It's really a focus on the here and now. It's about becoming more aware of your thinking, and also challenging your thinking, of course, how you can cope. And it's a very well-researched therapy, of course. All these things that I will describe now will probably not be very new, but I just think it's very good to mention it. EMDR, you probably heard of that as well. It's also very broadly used, especially used for post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a very common therapy for that. It's very helpful to reduce symptoms of a post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think it's also very good to mention that within the Netherlands, there is a really focus on first treat post-traumatic stress disorder before you're treating other diagnoses. Schema therapy is also very, very common. It's way more focused on personality patterns. Yeah, so schemas are like deep patterns. So your view on the world, the view on the other person, the view on yourself. So a schema can, for example, be mistrust. And if you have a schema of distrust, then you don't have trust in other people. And it's about becoming more aware of your patterns. There's more connection, by the way, with the past in schema therapy than in the other methods. So your childhood, for example. And it's often also used in group settings, because it's really about patterns. So it's really about seeing it happen within the group with other people. Another important one is acceptance and commitment therapy. It's a little bit of a newer behavioral therapy. There's also a large focus on the here and now, just like CBT. And it helps you to become more flexible with life circumstances. So part of it is accepting where you're at right now. And instead of really challenging your thoughts, it's about distancing yourself more from thoughts. There's more mindfulness to it. An important aspect is also becoming aware of your values. Within our mental health institution, we usually use it, for example, when CBT has not been helpful before, or also when someone has a physical illness. It's more about accepting where you're at. These are like the most common ones. And if you, for example, take a look at a vacancy in the Netherlands, that's also the treatments that they ask. Hey, have you had a course in cognitive behavioral therapy? Have you had a course in EMDR, schema therapy, or acceptance and commitment therapy? But there are way more therapies. I could go on and on and on, but these, I think, are the most popular therapies. What I've understood also, when talking with Ukrainian psychologists, is that more Gestalt therapy and art therapy is more common. That's less used in the Netherlands. There is a whole psychoanalytical association, so there are still people who perform it and do it, but it's less common. I think the reason for that is because it's less evidence-based. And Dutch universities, they teach a lot about research and about evidence-based practice. So I think it is also it could be one of the reasons why it's a little less common. But there are forms that are more often used that are derived from psychoanalytical therapy. So that's, for example, mentalization-based treatments. And mentalization-based treatment, is a treatment for borderline personality disorder. And it's really about improving the mentalization of clients. So for borderline personality disorder, it's often more difficult to know, what do I feel? What do I think? And it's also more difficult to see, hey, what does the other person feel and think? And so, that's more also derived from psychoanalytical therapies. So that was short on the therapies. So what's therapy to use in which case? That's always difficult question. But what can be helpful, and I think that's good to mention that, is that there are guidelines that have been set up in the Netherlands on what therapy you can use in what case. And in what diagnosis as well. So it really, the guidelines, it's called ggzstandaarden.nl. That's the link. It's in Dutch, but you can translate it with Google Translate, for example. And there's a lot of information on this around, information for every diagnosis, what diagnostic materials are most evidence-based, what are the treatments that are most evidence-based. And I'm not saying that you always have to do it like this. We don't do that as well in the biggest at our mental health institution, but it's good to have it in the back of your mind that you know a little bit. Hey, this is the evidence-based practice. This is how you can. This is what I know, and well, of course, you can always adapt that a little bit to the client.
Yeah, and maybe I can add something, because that's really also, this is a regulation in the Netherlands, as we have many of them. But the guidelines are there, and as Mira said, you can make another choice, but I think it's important to know why you make another choice then. So you have to provide some information in your file that says, well, I know this is the guideline, but in this case, I think it's better to do it this way. So I think that's also important.
That's a good, I think, add. Yeah. Just, it will be revised this year. It's a little bit older, from 2013. There have been changed a lot in the meantime in terms of in terms of research. So, but they will revise it this year. Just, I want to mention that there have been a couple of modifications of all the research what has been done in the meantime, and that's on the richtlijnen database.nl. All right, so I think it's just good to be aware of that. This is there, and you can also dive into it yourself. So this is an example. I work at a psychotrauma department, so I know these by heart. So what is the first? What is in the guidelines when we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder? Well, the first choice of treatment is imaginary exposure, which is actually a part of cognitive behavioral therapy. EMDR, or trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, or cognitive reprocessing therapy. Those are the most evidence-based practice. Within our institution, we only provide the first two, EMDR and imaginary exposure. So if we diagnose someone with the post-traumatic stress disorder, we usually ask the client, what would you want? We have the option of imaginary exposure, but you also have the option of EMDR. And those are the most well-researched treatments when it comes to post-traumatic stress disorder. What would have your preference? And what it also says, way more, by the way, has been said in the guidelines on post-traumatic stress disorder. This is just a tiny part. But for example, what it says is that in 16 weeks, once a week, an effect is expected. And if the therapy is not working, switch method. So if you started with EMDR, switch to imaginary exposure, for example, or intensify. So more sessions a week, or add medication. That's what it says. All right, so, and this is on the depression guidelines, for example. It says, first choice treatment, cognitive behavioral therapy. There's also an option for ACT, interpersonal psychotherapy, and shared psychodynamic psychotherapy. So for example, within our treatment, within our institution, we always start with cognitive behavioral therapy if someone has a depression, basically, because that's the most well-researched method. But IPT is, for example, also an option, but we don't give that as much within our institution. And the same here. After 4 months of treatment and no effect, change the form of treatment or add medication. And it says always in discussion with the client, because of course it's always shared decision making, that you are not only the one who's making the decision, but you're doing it together. Yeah, and this is the first choice treatment for borderline personality disorder. And I especially want to highlight also with borderline personality disorder. This is not something, if you really want to treat the personality disorder itself, I would not do that at the municipalities on your own. That's just way too much. And you really need to do that in a multidisciplinary team. Yeah, and just maybe short to highlight, yeah, this is of course, and so besides the guidelines, this is of course also very important. I just want to highlight it shortly. You probably know it, but yeah, it would not be complete if I would not mention this. Yeah, so it's always important to yeah, make a holistic theory. And what I mean with that is really understanding someone's past, someone's behavior, someone's thoughts, and what are resources, what are the symptoms. You really have to understand the client first, of course, and see what techniques are best fitted for the client. Instead of only doing yeah, like a protocol from A to Z. It's always good to see what does the client need. And of course, the therapeutic alliance. That's like also, if we're really talking about research, yeah, that is the most strong predictor of positive outcome in therapy. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, do you have anything to add, Ursula?
Well, I think it's what you said. It's a short amount of information. It's briefly because there is so many information, but this is actually the top of the iceberg, and also where you can find more information. So, yeah, I'm curious if there are any questions or if there are any comments on this before we go to the next topic, the associations. Oh, maybe it was clear. That's also good. Yeah.
So, yeah, if we're talking about accreditation, I think it's always important to talk about associations, because associations do the accreditation partly in the Netherlands. Yeah, so these associations that there are regarding psychology, they're usually connected to popular treatments in the Netherlands, such as EMDR, schema therapy, CBT. They all have their own association. And you can be member of these associations. And you can, yeah, why would you do that? Had to show to colleagues and clients that you're up to date with your professional knowledge. They usually also have their own curriculum, that they say, oh, you can become a cognitive behavioral therapist, and you can do this and this and this and this. And usually they have their webinars, their events, their literature, but there's absolutely no obligation necessarily in it. You can also be a psychologist without necessarily an association, but it can be interesting.
It can be interesting, and also it can be like if you want to specialize in something, you want to specialize in CBT, then you can take the courses, and step by step you can become a cognitive behavioral therapist if you can walk through the whole process. The same with schema therapy and also EMDR, I think.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Any other association. Yeah.
So I think what is important to note is this, because yeah, we've just been talking about association, where you can become a member too. But what is that not? It's not this what you see right now. Yeah. So what you see over here, that it's really about the education that you can get in order to get more responsibility. And an important one that you probably heard of is the education towards an GZ-psycholoog. Yeah, so you see where most of you probably are at is, I think, a psychologist at master level or maybe bachelor level could also be. But the next step when it comes to responsibility is you can become a GZ-psycholoog. But I think it is, yeah.
Sorry, could you explain me what is the HZ therapist?
What it does?
It is
Yeah.
psychologist. What is the difference
Yeah.
between psychotherapist and HZ therapist? Psychologist?
And good that you're asking. I was just planning to dive into that, so I'm happy that you are on top of it. So basically, what you get in the education of a GZ-psycholoog, well, Ursula, you did it. Can you share it?
Yeah, sure, of course, because it is a little bit complicated for Dutch psychologists as well. Because when you in the Netherlands, when you have your master's degree from the university, you can call yourself a psychologist, but it's not a protected title, so everyone can call himself psychologist. But if you have the master's degree, you are a psychologist at master level, so as you see on this sheet, and it's like a basic psychologist. So you can work in the mental health care organizations, but under supervision of a big registered. The big registered is a common register where some of the healthcare professionals are registered, like doctors, nurses, or nurse practitioners and psychologists. And that's a register. It is a protected title if you have that. And it also comes with more responsibilities at the work place. So when you have the master level psychologist, you're a basic psychologist, then there is it's not a course, but an education. It's a 2 years education program where you work and study at the same time. And after 2 years, if you can manage that, then you have the GZ psychologist. GZ stands for gezondheidszorg, mental health care. So the mental health care psychologist. And that is what basically in the Netherlands is a generalized psychologist. So it's not a real specialism, it's a generalized title. So you can work in different kinds of settings, different kinds of hospitals or mental health care institutions. So it's generalized. But then, yes, sorry, Mira.
No, I just wanted to add because, but I was interrupting you. Did you want to say something more?
Well, I was starting to tell what that's the first step. And then if you want to be a specialist, you can either do the psychotherapist education or a clinical psychologist education. And the clinical psychologist education is 4 years. It's also work and study at the same time. But then you are really a specialist and you have more responsibilities, you have higher salary. So that's
and I think what would be the difference, I think how I take a look at it, psychotherapy is really also trained in a lot of like personality dynamics, I think, right? And I know that that's actually also part of the clinical psychologist, but the clinical psychologists have even more of leadership roles, shaping policies and treatments.
Research. Yeah.
And there was a question on the chat I saw from Julia, how to get into this program. Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's very important to note that it's an education in Dutch. So if you want to go up the ladder in the Dutch system, it's very important to speak Dutch. So if you would really want to, that's the first step, I think. I think it's also very good to know it's very highly competitive. But yeah, how to get into it, there are vacancies, and you can also apply upon that. And if you at some point know Dutch, and sometimes it can help if you work at an institution where they offer a GZ education.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because the main problem for years, I think nowadays it's the same. There are a lot of basic psychologists who wants to enter a program to become a GZ psychologist, but there are not a lot of vacancies. So that's basically the problem. That has been a problem for many years. So yeah, the most important thing, as Mira said, the program is entirely in Dutch. So I think that's the biggest
step
to take. And then there are certain things that you have to meet, like standards, or yeah, you have to provide information that you have met some degree of education, some degree of internship. You have to show them that you have some cases of diagnostic cases under supervision. So there's a lot you can
and this is something that you will also share on the website, right, Ursula?
Yes, yes,
yes.
because
a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, because I think everyone has heard about the LOHO statement, and that is something you need to get into this program. Now, the LOHO statement is a very complex thing because it's there are parts of it that you have to meet the criteria, and I think very soon we provide perfect information about all this at our website. So I think when it's on our website, we will share it on socials. But yeah, there is a lot to say about that.
Yeah,
we have also
raised your hand.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my voice. I'm a little bit sick today.
Sorry.
But I want to ask, for example, I understood that it's quite hard for us to get this kind of level because not everyone is now Dutch in the level that we need. Let's call it like this. But for example, the psychotherapy exists in English. A lot of courses, a lot of programs. So, for example, if you have a master level, plus you have like diploma of psychotherapist, kind of that you were mentioned before, what kind of, I don't know, variants exists for us? Can you explain, for example, if we can't apply for this program? I mean, who's a psychologist, but for example, we have master degrees and psychotherapy. What we can apply for in the Netherlands, like the position, the work position, or whatever, or anything is closed for us because we don't have the Dutch level.
Are you talking about whether you're able to
work as a practical psychologist in the Dutch system? I mean, that's not only for municipality, but for like some organization.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you are able to work in the Dutch system as a basic psychologist, but you always are working then under the supervision at the master's level. And I'm just wondering a little bit what your question. I just try and understand it well. And do you mean also, is there any other position that we can sort of
Yeah, because you show us like what is our perspective,
Yeah.
and like the second level of our perspective
Yeah, I
after
think
the master level is he's a psychologist, but not everyone could do this because
Yeah.
not everyone knows Dutch well.
So
That's
that-
why I'm trying to understand
Yeah.
what we
So-
could do with this.
So there are ways to develop yourself as a psychologist, yeah, that I'll dive into later on as well. But this going up the ladder in terms of responsibility is a very difficult thing. And I can imagine that it's a little bit of a demotivating talk, maybe. All these criteria and all these difficult stuff that you have to do in order to become that. But we also want to give you a realistic view on this. And of course, there are possibilities. You're able to learn Dutch, really put a lot of effort in it. You're able to really try and get the local declaration properly. You're really are able to work at a certain place. There are possibilities, but it's just quite a difficult way. And I think that's just good to be realistic on. But there, like I was saying, there are ways as a Ukrainian psychologist to work in the Dutch GGZ at the level of basispsycholoog. And if you have a lot of options to do things. Me, myself, I work as a basispsycholoog as well already for 8 years. And I'm also able to do a lot of things in the Dutch GGZ. I have a regiebehandelaar who's trusting me, who sees, hey, this is what you can do. And I've done a lot of courses. And also, I'm also a member of an association. So there are a lot of things that you can do. But climbing the ladder in the Netherlands regarding responsibility, I think it's good to be clear on realistic about.
Thank
Yeah,
you very
and
much.
Is that an answer on your question?
Yes, and I'm grateful for this.
Yeah.
And I can't say that this is demotivate us, no, but it would be nice to have the clear vision what we should do, like
Yeah.
what our steps should be. And maybe
Yeah.
if you could, can you share with us the official pages of the association that you were talking about? Because probably I can't say about everyone, but for example, me, I'm thinking that maybe I'm not so familiar with the Dutch system and I can confuse when I search in the association. So it would be nice to have like a trustful information. So
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
thank you.
definitely. Yeah, we are definitely would like to share something on where you can find everything. Right, Ursula?
Yeah, it's a very good question because on the one hand, yeah, this shows how difficult it is, but not only for other nationalities, it's also for Dutch psychologists not so easy to become a GZ psychologist. So this is how it is organized right now. I don't know, maybe in the future that will change a little bit because we have a lot of pressure on the mental health care. So maybe, yeah, there are thoughts about changing it, but this is now how it is. And I think Mira is a very good example for how you can work as a basis psychologist in an institution or in a mental health organization and do a lot of good work and specialize yourself in one treatment or so yeah, I think it's a very good question, and I think it's we will provide some of the information about the associations. You can enter as a basis psychologist. Yeah. And we have another hand raised.
Yes, I have a question about master level. Does it matter in what specialization you have this master level? Because someone once told me that it's important that you have master level only in clinical psychology, but you can have master level in different types of psychology, like there's, I don't know, social psychology, special psychology, all kind of. Does it matter what exact type you have?
If I can answer
Yeah.
that, but maybe Mira, you can.
No, please.
You can
You
think
know
with
more
me.
about it.
Yeah, I think it is possible with different kind of master psychologists because well, I myself did some, I don't know. Well, but that's too long ago. That's not relevant anymore, I think. But no, I think you can have a master's degree on social psychologist and then as well follow courses and get yourself trained at some kind of some kind of treatment. I think, Mira, or do you think
Yeah,
you?
I think I'm just thinking a little bit how that was organized. If I take a look at myself, well, I did clinical psychology, but I'm wondering how it would be if you have social psychology. I think the problem is then with what has been in Dutch universities is then that you not always have the logo declaration.
That is
Because
true.
there are certain subjects that you didn't follow, you didn't do the internship, the clinical internship. So then you first have to get all these things before you're able to, for example, continue, right? But then, especially if you want to work towards being a GZ psycholoog, for example. But yeah, there's a lot of hassle around the logo declaration as well, because first it was, at some point it was obligated, but then it wasn't. So yeah.
Even to work as a basis psycholog, also it's like all these things are required. Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Like this,
whether
you mentioned about logo obligations. So
Yeah.
it's for everyone who wants to work as a basis psycholog. It's just if you, for example, don't have master level in clinical psychology, then you will have to do some of these extra steps.
But I think there's a difference between the Dutch psychologists, right, at the moment, and Ukrainian psychologists right now, because there has been an exception for Ukrainian psychologists that they don't have to have the logo declaration for now. Yeah, so
For now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just like, for example, if something changed and then in future we would like to have, then we will have to do all these extra steps. Yes.
Well, that's not for sure because we don't know whether because now there is an exception and you can work as a basispsycholoog in the GGZ. And this exception is prolonged for another year, and then what is after that? That is unclear.
Mhm.
So we are trying to figure out what will be the case, and then what we really want to do as PsyGlobal is provide a way to get to the logo statement.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And I think it's also good to mention that we as PsyGlobals are really lobbying also with the government.
yeah,
Really share that it's very important that they don't right away change something in this, because that would lead to difficulties for you. So that's, I think, also good to mention.
Yeah.
Um,
There's another question.
Yeah. Is your question answered? Yeah.
Okay.
Tatjana.
Yeah, hello, Mira,
Hi,
and hello,
Tatjana.
girls. I want to ask, is there any integration courses for Ukrainian psychologists about Dutch system, about Dutch psychological system?
That's a very good question. Because that is indeed what we are trying to do, with give you information about how the Dutch system works.
You're in it right now, Tatjana.
Yeah, you're in it right now. But I like the term that you used, like an integration in the Dutch mental health care system. Well, there is not standard. So in this way, we try to provide you with the most additional information, but there is not a real clean, integration system. No.
And I think it's good to mention that you, as Ukrainian psychologists, are actually the first group of psychologists that are integrating into the Dutch system. So it's new, and we as PsyGlobal are also trying to find our way within it.
This is great what you are doing. I'm just thinking, for example, if I need extra study, extra document, so I would like to do some study. So I'm like thinking, what can it be? Where should I go?
Yeah.
That's also a good question, and that is also what we are trying to provide in the curriculum of the learning and development, the courses that we can create. It's also new because everything is in Dutch, but nothing is in English. So we are trying to provide extra courses to make it easier for you as another nationality psychologist to within the Dutch GGZ. So on the one hand, we try to give you the information on what is needed, what is needed from the organizations, and also what can we do, what can we provide as courses to make the bridge shorter. Is that is that logic to say? Yeah.
And Tatjana, if you have any suggestion, please share it as well. Also, there's also an evaluation format at the end.
Yeah.
And please, if you have any ideas, like, hey, I want to have more literature, I think that's a very good idea. So on what topics would you like more literature? You can just fill it in, and then we also know a little bit better what is it that you would need.
Oh, super! I will do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Is your question answered, Tatjana?
Yeah, partly. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Then shall we continue?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, some popular associations in the Netherlands. Yeah. Oh, I'm going too fast. I think there was also a question before, right? Like, what are associations in the Netherlands and where can we find them? And yeah, an important one is the VGCT, Vereniging voor Cognitieve Gedragstherapie. That's Association on Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. You also have the VST, Vereniging voor Schematherapie. It's an association on schema therapy. The VEN is an association on EMDR. There's also an NVP, it's for big registered psychotherapies, but there's also NVVP's on psychoanalysis, for example. But also in this, I think it's important, language is key. A lot of things are in Dutch. So yeah, that's really the first way forward, I think. When
and also I think it's with the CBT courses at PsyGlobal, we try to provide you with the first steps of the cognitive behavioral therapy. Some of you have have had the 30 hours of the basic course, and for next year we are trying to make it happen to provide the whole 100-hour basic course in English, and nothing is certain yet because there is a lot of work to be done because it doesn't exist in English. So it's a lot of work, but that is our main goal, to try to do that for you as a first step.
Yeah. So here it also says that it is an there have been a 30 hours training on CBT, and what Ursula we're focusing on trying to provide more. So yeah, if you take a look at the associations, if we take a look at the VGCT, the Vereniging voor Cognitieve Gedragstherapie, that's where we accredited the training on. And so if we're talking about an accredited training on CBT, it's the Dutch CBT Association, and that we get it connected to. I think it's just good to mention, if we really talk about the CBT associations, they have this whole curriculum.
Yeah.
They have 100-hour basic course. They have even 100-hour follow-up. They have you have to have 100 hours of supervision of a CBT supervisor, 20 hours of intervision of a CBT supervisor. You have to make an elaborate reflection of a case with measurements, and then at some point you can say, hey, I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. And so they have this whole curriculum, but it's only a part of it. But I think it's very good to have already this course. That's already good that you can share, hey, this is what I can do.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that this is one of the ways you can specialize yourself into, even though you are not a GZ psychologist. Because I said, Mira said it as well, this is something you can do as a basic psychologist. The only thing, and that's where we hopefully can help you with, is that this way to become a cognitive behavioral therapist, so all the 100 hours this, 100 hours that, the 100 hours that, if you have all these, you can call yourself cognitive behavioral therapist, the title, within this association. And you can proceed this course this way without having the GZ psychology registration.
Yeah,
so that's important.
I am in it myself as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good to note that the 100-hour CBT course is really, in the Dutch system, is really being seen as the basic thing. So if you want to continue in EMDR or schema therapy, they always ask, first have the 100 hours course, CBT course. And then you can start with the schema therapy course or an EMDR course in Dutch. And of course, we are also trying to find our ways within it. But I think it's good to mention. So if you're talking about suggestions, I think very good place to start is in courses in the most popular therapies in the Netherlands. So CBT, acceptance and commitment therapy, those are ones that are more easily reachable than, for example, EMDR schema therapy, because they ask the 100 hours usually first before you can enter. Right? Is this Ursula? Take a look at you as well.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to mention, you probably heard of the NIP. That's for psychologists in general in the Netherlands. It's also an association for basic psychologists. And they're also more open, I think, to international psychologists as well. They organize events, webinars, access to literature as well. You can also have a certain curriculum. They have some legal advice. Yeah.
Yeah, just I have to add that I tried to apply for NEEP, but they told me that they can work only with master VO, yeah, VO, yeah, not HBO, but VO. So you should be like connected to the science, yes. So yeah, that's why they need special master diploma. So
Oh,
yeah.
good that
Yeah.
you mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah, because they say that when your diploma is validated on the WO master level, so that is the university in the Netherlands, then you can enter, or you can enter, you can join this association. But it's good to know, because not for everyone your diploma is validated on that level. So that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Nice cat, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And since I mentioned before, sometimes it can be complicated to also the associations as well. They sometimes also have their own trajectory and also strict rules. Sometimes also an option is to take a look at more European associations as well. So there's, for example, the ISST in chemotherapy, or the EABCT in CBT, or AMDR Europe. Just wanted to mention it shortly. Yeah, so what are recommendations? Yeah, I think it has been asked before. So what can we do as Ukrainian psychologists? Well, yeah, what I mentioned before, language helps. If you really want to climb the ladder in the Netherlands, then it's very helpful to learn Dutch. Yeah, what you can also do is focus on courses. Accredited is a possibility, but just courses in general on CBT, ACTs, trauma treatments such as imaginary exposure. Yeah, there's also yeah, you can share maybe a little bit on that, Ursula, the positive psychology.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, this Friday, coming Friday, there will be a workshop organized by PsyGlobal about positive psychology, and it should be very interesting, because positive psychology is a very, it's kind of a different treatment or different way that really relies on the strength that we have as a human being, and so it should be very interesting for us as psychologists as well, for our personal lives, as well as for our patients and our clients. So I think that is very interesting, and I hopefully we can provide more positive psychology training in the future, because I think that in all work settings it is very useful.
Yeah.
And also I wanted to mention that the courses in CBT, ACT, positive psychology, trauma treatment, it would be great if there is an accreditation, but it is not necessary. If you provide to your employer that you, or possible employer, that you have done some courses in CBT or ACT or trauma treatment, that is very valuable. Even though it might not be accredited, but it is very valuable. So for your work, I really would recommend it. And I hope that we will see each other also this Friday.
Yeah.
At the Positive Psychology Day.
Thank you, Ursula. And last point is, I shared something on the guidelines, and I think it's just good to have it in the back of your mind and be aware of what you can offer, but sometimes also what you cannot offer. I think that's at least as important. All right. Questions? Well, there were already, before we dive into questions maybe you're having, there were already a couple of questions that have been asked beforehand. So I first would like to dive into that, and then yeah, if you have any questions, then please share that as well. So a question that, because you could share that with when subscribing for this webinar, there was also a question on, yeah, do you have a question on it? So I will share that. So one of the first questions was, yeah, can Ukrainians work at the second mental health chain? Well, yes, like we mentioned, that's definitely possible, but then under the supervision of a regiebehandelaar, which is usually receptpsycholoog. So that's the first question. The second question is, well, how should treatment be documented? Well, I think it's good to mention that it's just really important to always write your considerations carefully, especially yeah, around themes such as suicidal behavior, or when it's about ending treatment. And then you can show, hey, this is what I've done and why I've done it in case of a complaint, for example. So yeah, how should treatment be documented? Yeah, I think it's just, this is important. Yeah.
Or maybe the question was also about if we document it in a paper file or in a computer. I don't know if that was the question, but I think in that case it depends on the organization where you work, because I don't think we use paper files anymore. So it probably will be in some kind of system. But yeah, maybe it's true literally. I don't know.
Yeah. If you've been the one who shared it and it hasn't been answered, yeah, please share. Yeah. And yeah, the last one was, how do psychologists collaborate with different professionals, such as doctors, for example? Well, yeah, if I talk about myself, sometimes we communicate with the GP. Yeah, how do we do that? Usually at the start of the treatment, we send a letter to the GP. Hey, these are the difficulties of the clients and this is the treatment we're going to do. But it's always with consent of the client. So the client always knows what I'm sharing. And sometimes I also call the GP if there's a consent, of course, of the client, then we can yeah, sometimes also call if that's an answer on the question. Right. Yeah, so those were all the questions that have been framed. There have been a lot of things said, from treatments to guidelines to accreditation to associations. Yeah, we're just wondering, are there for now any questions? Yes, Victoria? There are two. Victoria? Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. One of them is about events that you mentioned before on the 7th of March and on Friday, because I thought I was subscribed, but I haven't got any notifications or letters about this event.
Oh, that's good that you're here, because I'm sorry you have missed it. Yes, maybe we can check, because there is also a post on LinkedIn, and I think also in the I don't know if you have also the Messenger. Is it correct? Did I say Messenger group? No.
No.
Like the WhatsApp, but the
Telegram, you mean?
Telegram. I'm sorry, the Telegram group. But yes, this Friday, the 24th, there is a whole day from 9 to 4 in Utrecht about positive psychology, and you can definitely find it on LinkedIn and at our LinkedIn page. If you are interested, you're most welcome.
And I
also,
think maybe you can also send us an email, I think, right? If you haven't been subscribed in any way, just you can send us an email, and then we'll try and figure out, put you on the list or.
Yeah, because there are other events on the 7th of March, but also on the 5th of February, there will be a very interesting day COMET training. That should be very, very nice as well. So
it's part of cognitive behavioral therapy, by the way. Good to mention.
Yeah, exactly. So please, if you can send us an email, and then we will provide you with all the information, and also check the LinkedIn page of PsyGlobal as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second question is, I'm working currently at Dutch organization De Regenboog. It's an organization in Amsterdam. They care about homeless people, but since the war started, they care about I think 2,000 Ukrainian refugees. And I'm working there officially as mental coach, because it's their highest position they could provide for us. But we work practically as psychologists, and because of people not always are willing to go to some Dutch organization, and because of long list, they refused to go. And sometimes we work with depression, with clinical anxiety, and I'm thinking, what can I expect? Because I think it's beyond my functions, but I still provide it if people are willing, and if they see positive dynamic in their mental state.
I hear what you're saying, Victoria, and I think this is a very common difficulty. Also, I think for psychologists at a location, that you sometimes see very complex clients, but then you don't really have the cover up of a multidisciplinary team, and that's just a very difficult situation. And I think in that it is very important to protect yourself as well, that you're really able to really properly see, hey, what is it what I can do within this setting, and what is what I cannot do within this setting, because it's just also very important to have the cover up of a team. But that is a difficult situation.
Yes, I can imagine it's very difficult because you don't have the time, I think, for the whole treatment. But also you need, when you are treating people for depression, for example, or other things, but you need to be educated, but you need to be equipped. You need to be able to give the whole treatment. Otherwise, indeed, you have to say this is not the place. But it's very difficult if people do not want to go to another place. But then it's also
sorry, I was I was also thinking, I think it's very important also in terms of this is also to have intervision. Had to really I'm also within PsyGlobal, I'm leading an intervision group, and that is this is really a topic that I hear back a lot within the intervision. Hey, where are boundaries? Tatiana, I see a heart from you. That's, I think, as well very important, because these are just very difficult topics, right? When
We have intervision sessions, and I also have my own supervisor because I'm experienced in CBT approach.
Good.
That's great. That's great. And does your supervisor says to continue, or do they also say this is the limit?
It's a very unclear question because officially I work as mental coach. That's why it's hard to respond this question, even for her.
Yeah, I can
because
imagine.
she's Ukrainian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, and Victoria, do you feel like your question is answered?
Yeah, I think so. Not whole question. Partially, I'm thinking, but yeah, thanks for a response.
All right. Okay. Next question. I can't really pronounce your name properly. I don't know the Ukrainian script, so someone raised their hands.
I raised the hand.
What's your name? Can you share it again?
Julia.
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 Okay.
Is my name says in Cyrillic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I will change next time. I didn't know. I have more like practical question about the CBT course that you mentioned, because as I said, you already did once. I saw it also on LinkedIn after that there was some. Are you planning to repeat it or something like? And also, as I understand, the previous course was in Ukrainian, and you was mentioning something about CBT basic course in English.
Yeah, I can answer your question. I think it's in the past year, or 2023 and 2024, PsyGlobal has organized a 30-hour course of this CBT. One group was in Ukrainian and two groups were in English. And we have now asked the government who subsidized this course if we can also provide the 100-hour CBT course in English. So we hopefully we can provide that in the upcoming year.
And if I didn't follow this 30 hours course, for example, I still can do this 100.
Exactly. Yes.
And you also mentioned something about that Telegram chat, how to join it.
That's a very good question, because I am like a digibate in Dutch. I don't know anything about the technology, no. But I'm sorry about that. But there is a way to enter. Mira, do you know how to sign up for
I
this
think
group?
what I now come up with is maybe the easiest way is maybe just to send an email to PsyGlobal, because we have Xusha, right? Who's more member of the whole Telegram.
Oh, so I can ask Xusha about it here.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Then yeah, she knows it. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other?
We have another question.
Yes, I have one more question related to this 100-hour course, because previous times there were participants who even didn't work at any organization, but they were available to get this course. But unfortunately, because of limitation, people who works in that organization, they couldn't join it. Would it be possible to have some filters in order to provide this course for people who work currently?
Yeah, that's a very good question because we unfortunately we have a limitation in the number of people we can provide these courses to, and I think, but I don't know for sure. The bigger the course, the smaller the group who can join it. So we definitely have to think about the purpose of the subsidy of the government, who will be who can join first, and hopefully we can in time we can provide this course to everyone who wants it, but we definitely have to think about this is not decided yet. So.
Because in my case, for instance, my organization is able even to pay for my education, so
that is also a possibility. Yes, of course, and also that's very common in the Netherlands that an employer provides a budget for education, or partly, or there is another way. And I think it's very, very interesting and very nice of you to share this, because that gives us other thoughts about how so many people, as much people as possibly as we possibly can to enter these courses.
Yeah, good suggestion.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, or is it Tatjana?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Ursula, Mira, you what about that 100 hours course? Is it necessary course? For example, if I choose between the master course, what is better, to do first 100 hours or to do mastered, for example?
And what do you mean a master's course? You mean like a master's in itself, or you mean like more connected to the logo subjects, like logo declaration subject?
For now, my diploma is translated as a bachelor, but because I couldn't prove it because of my language yet. So at this time, I was thinking, what is better? Should I use this time for doing, for example, that specific course which is basic for 100 hours, or I don't know, will it be my diploma valid even if I have PhD? I don't know, because the system are different. But if I should do education, maybe I should start like now and do master level, because I've never been bachelor in Ukraine, but now
it depends also a little bit on what you want. If you really want to work as in the second mental health chain, and you want to work as a basic psychologist, then a master's level is required. So if you really want that, then the first step is getting a master's degree diploma. But if you feel like, hey, at the place where I am at, I want to be here and I want to learn more on CBT, that's also an option. And then you can get a course in CBT as well. So it depends a little bit on what you want.
And what about that CBT course? It's important for what kind of job or what kind of sphere?
That's also a very interesting question, because I think you can, if you are educated in CBT, you can actually use it in any place you work in.
Yeah.
So that could be in the mental health care organization, that could be in the municipalities, that could be in a GP practice. I think this is something you can use anywhere.
It's really like the basic. Yes. Is that
Yeah. So I understand it's like the course which everybody should have. Kind of.
Yeah, if you want to sort of get some accreditation in the Netherlands, or you want to show like, hey, this is what I've done, or you want to dive a little bit into methods that are commonly used in the Netherlands, that's a good start.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Is your question answered?
Yeah, but
mhm.
oh, okay. Because as if I understand correctly, you are now your diploma is validated on bachelor level, and your question is, can I use my time? Is it better to use my time in the CBT course or at some kind of education to get to the master level? I think I would go for the master level because that gives you more options to work in. But Mira said it very clear. It's if you want to keep working in a municipality, go for the CBT.
Okay,
Yeah.
both of them are important.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right. Any other questions, or are the questions answered? All right.
Do you suppose exact period when you can provide this 100 CBT course, or you don't have it any time in your mind?
I don't have it at the moment because we don't have the it's not accepted yet, our proposal, so we are waiting for that. But I think it would be, well, I hope before the summer, but I'm not sure. It's not something we will have in a week or 3-4. So it needs work because it's not available in English. So it needs work.
But you already have 2 people in the waiting list.
I hear, yeah.
All right. So, before, I think we're rounding up, right? Yeah. So, yeah, thanks for all, attending this webinar. There's a QR code right now. If you're not on I'm not sure how it works if you're looking at it on your phone, but you can use it to get to evaluation format. So it would be great if you could do that, because I already heard a lot of good suggestions that you have. Huh? So please share that also on the evaluation format, because we will be taking a look at it.
Can you send this code somewhere on the email, because I'm on my phone today and I can't do, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Is Anna still here? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Anna is still here. She will share the link. Yeah. All right. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time this evening, for your attention, for your interesting, valuable questions. I hope this gives a little bit more information. This webinar should be on our website as well in, I think, a few weeks or days. I don't know how fast it goes, but it should be there soon. And please, if you have any questions or things for us, do not hesitate to give us an email or let us know.
Yeah. All right. I think everyone
Thank you
is
so much.
You're welcome.
For your
Thank you.
webinar.
It
You're
was
very
very-
interactive.
Thank
and
you.
very
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.